The Song of Ribhu, Chapter 2. You are of the nature of Brahman. Nadaga asked, Best of Gurus, who deserves to become the Supreme Brahman? By attaining the knowledge of that Supreme Brahman. What is the requisite knowledge for that? What is my real, unsullied nature? Please explain to me in detail the answer to this, in the way in which the Supreme Shiva expounded it. That sage, Ribhu, appropriately replied, Those who have obtained the four aids, by means of treading the right path, without any blemish, during several births, unattached to the results of that tapas, intense practice or austerity, and who have attained purity of heart without any delusion, by naturally resorting to Shravana, listening, and the other means. And thus reach the knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, themselves become the undivided, non-dual Supreme Brahman, with no trace of anything separate from it. Negating all the illusory attributes, like the individual, Jiva, and the Supreme, Para, by clearly inquiring and fearlessly realizing the undivided Supreme Brahman as I am Brahman, is the proper knowledge for attaining the nature of Brahman. Those men of fortitude who are attuned to this knowledge of Brahman, faultless one, are never affected by the base bondage of worldly existence. Your true nature is always the undivided, non-dual Brahman, which is a mass of being, consciousness, bliss, motionless, ancient, still, eternal, without attributes, without confusion, without sheaths, without parts, without impurity, completely free from any illusion of duality, full, peerless, and the One. You yourself are the Supreme Brahman, which is existence alone. You yourself are Brahman, which is full in all respects. You yourself are the Supreme Brahman, which is consciousness alone. You yourself are Brahman, which is not associated with the world or the individual, Jiva, or the Supreme. You yourself are Brahman, which is goodness alone. You yourself are Brahman, without name or form. You yourself are the Supreme Brahman, which is only that. You yourself are the Supreme Brahman, which stands alone by itself. You yourself are Brahman, which is like the sky with no form. You yourself are Brahman, which is the blemishless reality. You yourself are Brahman, which is a mass of knowledge. You yourself are Brahman, which has no world or any such thing. You yourself are the Supreme Brahman, which stands as the void. You yourself are Brahman, which is the pure expanse of consciousness. You yourself are the non-dual Brahman, which is imperishable. You yourself are Brahman, which is complete, full, and undivided. You yourself are the Supreme Brahman, which is the substratum of all. You yourself are Brahman, which is the witness of all. You yourself are Brahman, which has no distinguishing marks. You yourself are the Supreme Brahman, which transcends everything. You yourself are Brahman, which is like the clear sky without any objects. You yourself are Brahman, without time and space. You yourself are Brahman, which has nothing apart from it. You yourself are the Supreme Brahman, which remains spotless. You yourself are Brahman, established as a mass of existence. You yourself are Brahman, which is ever a mass of bliss. You yourself are Brahman, established as a mass of consciousness. You yourself are Brahman, which is all of consciousness bliss. You yourself are Brahman, without sorrow or joy. You yourself are Brahman, without the pairs of opposites. You yourself are Brahman, which is undecaying. You yourself are Brahman, which is of the nature of one undivided essence. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is the truth. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is the primeval. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is the eternal. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is the untainted. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is pure. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is self-born. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is liberation. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is delusionless. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is serenity. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is peace. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is desireless. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is great. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is unsullied. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is all-pervading. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is blemishless. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is unwavering. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is immaculate. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is afflictionless. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is one. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is without a second. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is bodiless. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is perfectly full. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is the Supreme Shiva. You are of the nature of the Supreme Brahman, which is higher than the highest. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is bodiless. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is divine. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which has no sorrow. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is a mass of bliss. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is the One. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is one without a second. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is indivisible. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is unfragmented. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is not veiled. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is without parts. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is immemorial. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is complete. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which has no movement or such. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is unwavering. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is itself both the higher and the lower. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is sanctified. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is blemishless. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is everywhere. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is without differences. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is great. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is the luminous. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is self-determined. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is beginningless. You are of the nature of consciousness alone, which is undivided. You are of the nature that has no trace of the delusion of the world. You are of the nature that has no sankalpa, concept or determination of will, or vikalpa, indecision, doubt, or differentiation of the mind. You are of the nature that has no trace of the ego. You are of the nature of untainted knowledge. You are of the supreme nature of the fourth state, beyond waking, dream, and deep sleep, without a trace of blemish. You are of the nature of the supreme, which is beyond even the fourth state. You are of the supreme nature, which is all-pervasive as a mass of bliss. You are of the nature of the pure, supreme Brahman. You are of the nature that exists ever and everywhere. You are of the nature that is the supreme, which is the one without a second. You are of the nature of the void, that is self-knowledge. You are of the nature of the supreme, which stands alone by itself. You are of the nature that is immobile as a stone. You are of the nature even a trace of which is beyond imagination. You are of the nature that is a mass of truth, knowledge, bliss. You are of the nature that is immersed in quiescence. You are of the nature that is eternal and attributeless. You are of the supreme nature, which is formless. You are of the nature that is truth, knowledge, bliss. You are of the supreme nature, which is eternal. You are of the nature that is pure space. You are of the nature of the self-luminous. You are of the nature that is filled with non-duality. You are of the nature that is a mass of bliss. You are of the nature of the Supreme, which is limbless and bodiless. You are of the nature of the Supreme, which is without beginning and end. You are of the nature of the Supreme, which is unattached. You are of the nature of the Supreme, which is devoid of the sextet of states. You are of the nature of the Supreme, which is unbroken. You are of the nature that is without a trace of the bondage of worldly birth. You are of the nature of the supreme light, which is never dimmed. You are of the nature of the unblemished Supreme Brahman. You are of the nature that is all-pervasive and changeless. You are of the nature that is to be realized through the Vedanta. You are of the nature that cannot be cut up and that transcends all qualities. You are of the nature that has no distinguishing characteristics or identifying marks. You are of the great nature that is devoid of change. You are of the nature that is beyond the reach of words and the mind. You are of the nature of the One Self, which is actionless. You are of the nature that is totally devoid of duality. You are of the nature that is the truest of the true. You are of the nature that is beyond existence and non-existence. You are of the nature of the consciousness of consciousness. You are of the nature that is beyond consciousness and non-consciousness. You are of the nature that is the seed of the seed. You are of the nature that is supreme, pure, and devoid of roots. You are of the nature that is beyond the reach of anything. You are of the nature that is as it is. You are of the nature of the Guru of Gurus. You are of the nature that has no qualities or defects. You are of the nature that is the grace of graces. You are of the nature of the Supreme, which is untarnished. You are of the nature of the knowledge of knowledge. You are of the nature that has not an atom to see. You are of the nature that is inexplicable even by the Vedas. You are of the nature that just exists and is actionless. You are of the nature of the eye of the eye. You are of the nature of the mind of the mind. You are of the nature of the space of space. You are of the nature of the pervader of the omnipresent. You are of the nature that cannot be enumerated. You are of the nature that is beyond the reach of any delusion. You are of the nature of the indescribable. You are of the nature that is beyond the reach of speech and such. You are of the nature of the cause of the cause. You are of the nature that has not a stroke of action to be performed. You are of the nature of the fullest of the fullness. You are of the nature that has no interactions. You are of the nature of undecaying consciousness. You are of the supreme nature of the space of consciousness. You are of the nature revealed by the Vedas. You are of the nature of the one undivided essence. You are of the nature of the simplest of the simplest. You are of the nature of the supremely majestic. You are of the nature of the holiest of the holy. You are of the nature that has no higher or lower state. You are of the nature of awareness that is endless. You are of the nature that cannot be comprehended by anything. You are of a rare nature that is indescribable. You are of the nature of truth, consciousness, bliss. You yourself are that which is indicated by that. You yourself are that which is indicated by you. You yourself are that which is indicated by are. You yourself are the Supreme, which is the undivided meaning of these. You yourself are that which is established and is fearless. You yourself are the Supreme, which is unsurpassed bliss. You yourself are that which is indicated by the word reality and such others. You yourself are the meaning of all manifestations of sound. You yourself are the meaning indicated by the various words and sentences at the end of the Vedas. You yourself are the meaning of all the Mahavakyas, great Upanishadic aphorisms, such as knowledge is Brahman. Apart from the analysis of individual Mahavakyas, you yourself are that which is totally indescribable. You remain ever as the Supreme, which abides in itself, without the trace of a word to describe you. You yourself are the Supreme God, who has no different variations of 5 forms, such as Brahma, the Creator, and others. You yourself are the Supreme God, which stands as the ultimate reality, transcending all imagination. You yourself are God, the greatest of the great, which exists without a trace of delusion. You yourself are the Supreme God, which remains as the actionless Shiva, which is the space of consciousness. You yourself are the Supreme God, which is only of the nature of truth, which exists ever steadfast and unwavering. You yourself are the Supreme God, which is simply of the nature of consciousness, which has no objects of perception, such as the mind. You yourself are the Supreme God, which is only of the nature of bliss, and which has no sorrows of birth and death. You yourself are the Supreme God, which is complete, without any bondage or liberation. You yourself are Brahman, which is the undivided knowledge, the infinite space, and the greatest of the great. You yourself are Brahman, extended as a mass of consciousness, without any conditionings such as birth. You yourself are the Supreme Brahman, identical with the undivided self, without a trace of anything apart from it. You yourself are the Supreme Brahman, only that, which exists by itself and abides in itself. What avails endless talk, pointing out all the differences? O sage of great tapas, the partless, undivided Brahman is your real nature. I have explained all as told by Lord Mahadeva, Shiva, the great God. There is not an iota of doubt in this. In the name of the Lord's pair of feet, what I have spoken is true. Hence, realizing the knowledge that the Self is Brahman, you, the Self, shall become the undivided Supreme Brahman. Looking at Ribhu, who thus gave an incomparable exposition, Nadaga, in a rapture of unparalleled joy, praised the sage, and, in all humility and wonder, implored him to instruct him further in the undivided knowledge of Brahman. The great sage Ribhu began to reply with affection. In the manner in which Lord Shankara, the embodiment of compassion, whoever does only good to all beings, graciously expounded this on Kailasa, I shall further describe in variety, Nadaga, the definition of the undivided Absolute, so that it clearly enshrines itself in your heart. Now, hear the definition of this indivisible Absolute with an open mind. Truly, the world never exists. The world was never created. It was never expansive. It has never inexplicably dissolved out of existence. It is only the Supreme Brahman, of the nature of consciousness alone, with no trace of this picture of a world, that is the eternal and established existence. There is no doubt of this, Nadaga. It is certain. All this dualistic world appears in the worldly interactions in front of everyone. Some say that the mind, which appears as the world, is the vivarta, illusory appearance, of consciousness. On proper inquiry it is seen that the mind does not exist outside of Brahman, which is of the nature of consciousness. Therefore, son, what exists fully and eternally is only Brahman. If we examine the silver, which is only a vivarta, illusory appearance, on nacre, there is only nacre and no silver. Likewise, if we examine the mind, which is an illusory appearance on consciousness, there is only consciousness and no mind. As there is no mind, there is no world. Therefore, son, what exists fully and eternally is only Brahman. When inquired into fully, all things that seem different from Brahman, which is the substratum of all, will be seen to be only Brahman, the reality and nothing else. When examined thoroughly, is the transient serpent that appears on the rope anything other than the rope? Therefore, worthy son, what exists fully and eternally is only Brahman. There is no Maya, illusion, no effect created by Maya, no delusive notion, no world which deludes, no fallacious ego, no mind, no activity of the mind, no intellect, no body, no action, no doer, no effect, no seer, and nothing to be seen. What exists eternally, with nothing to be acquired or discarded, is only Brahman. There are no varieties of conditionings like the body, no ignorance or want of discrimination, no acquisitions of aids to success, no divisions of knowledge like listening, Shravana, and others, no sorrow-effacing samadhi, state of absorption, no knowledge, no wearisome bondages, and no liberation. What exists always as the one complete, perfectly full, decayless reality is only the Supreme Brahman. The four adjuncts, such as Vishaya, subject matter, are not present. The three connections are not present. The five elements, which are inert, are not present. There are not five gods like Sadashiva and others. There are no different things like pot and cloth. There are no time and space or such. What exists eternally is only the Supreme Brahman, which is of the nature of unafflicted bliss and shining consciousness. There is nothing like the past or the future. There is nothing that exists as the present. There are no sacred waters like the Setu, Gaya, or Ganga. There are no vows, vratas, to be observed according to rules. There are no gods, such as Shiva, to be worshipped. There are no results to be achieved. What exists, eternally of the nature of reality, and devoid of anything, is the Supreme Brahman alone. There are no castes, no different orders of life, ashramas, no bhavas, attitudes, concepts, or dharmas, codes of conduct, duties, customs, practices, that are classified in divisions. No heaven or hell to be reached, no opposing dyads like sorrow or happiness, no duality that is based on differentiation, no identity of any kind, and no superimposition that is illusory. The one constant reality of the nature of originless existence is the Supreme Brahman alone. There is nothing to be determined by intellect, nothing to be reflected upon by the defect of mind, nothing to be thought of by the mind, nothing to be spoken of in an abundance of words, no duality that appears as attachments, and no fear that follows duality. The one constant reality of the nature of eternal existence is only the Supreme Brahman alone. Birth and other modifications constituting the 6 states are not there. The body to undergo the 6 modifications is not there. There are no 4 states like waking, dream, deep sleep, and the 4th, Turiya, which is not really another state, but the underlying substratum of the other 3 states, the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep states, and others. There is no one to experience those states. There is nothing to be described as existence and non-existence. There are no varieties as discrete particles or integral aggregates. The one constant reality of the nature of indivisible truth and knowledge, without a second, is the Supreme Brahman alone. There can be no statement that all does not exist, nor that all is illusory, nor that all is Brahman, nor that I am ever Brahman, nor that Brahman is I. There is nothing such as you and me. It is only the Supreme Brahman that exists, transcending all statements, undivided and immutable. The three gunas, such as sattva, rajas, and tamas, do not exist, nor do the effects produced by these qualities exist, nor do any sects such as Dvaita, dualism, or Advaita, non-dualism, exist, nor do any gurus or disciples relating to these exist, nor does a trace of the chimera of duality exist. All these foregoing statements of negation also do not exist. It is only the Supreme Brahman that exists, as the pure space of consciousness, natural consciousness, a mass of bliss. O sage of great tapas, it is only for those who, rid of the agitations of the restless mind, by the certitude of the undivided Supreme, now expounded, become the infinite, beginningless, and endless, non-dual Supreme Brahman, that this originless bondage of birth will disappear. For others, this bondage will never be removed. Hence, by this undivided absolute realization, you shall become ever the indivisible Supreme Brahman. I have told you in the manner in which it was expounded by the Immaculate Shiva, the definition of the pure, indivisible Absolute, which is the reality that remains after negating all the superimpositions due to Maya on the eternal Supreme Brahman. Those who even once listen to and clearly understand the meaning of this will become the Supreme themselves. Just as waves, bubbles, and foam appear on the ocean, the entire sapless phenomenal world of the moving and the unmoving appears on the infinite Supreme Shiva. Only those who, by relentless inquiry, attain the doubtless realization that they are all of the nature of the one, complete Supreme Shiva, will be fully rid of the dreadful bondage of birth and will become of the nature of the impeccable Supreme Shiva. Thus the sage, Sutta, gave the definition of Brahman, recounting how Skanda, in his indescribable compassion, told this great truth to Jagishavya, and how the sage Ribhu related this with love to Nadaga, in the manner of the exposition by the Supreme Shiva, as the definition of the undivided Absolute. It is the limitless form of the God of gods, in a state of joyous dance that authoritatively proclaims that you are eternal, attributeless being, that all the phenomenal worlds do not exist, and that the Supreme Absolute is the truth that ever exists, transcending all these worlds.